Cool Clyde's in the house. One of my biggest fans, right? Give Cool Clyde a big hand. I gotta catch this man because this is a busy man. On Sunday, he's at the radio station. I listen to the show I won't name the show on there, but I love that show.
Thank you.
I really love it. And then I said, I do not rest until I hear. They said, well, thank everybody and Cool Clyde. I said, okay, I can go to sleep now. I will hear Cool Clyde. Cool Clyde, we're gonna close out with this segment, and we're gonna have you come back. Smokey Robinson. What's your memory of Smokey Robinson?
Wow, genius. I think my mother had me off of his music. I mean, there's so many great memories. I mean, from the Motown era.
Yes.
I mean, you had artists that can sing, that can perform. You hear them on the radio, you see them in person, you see them on TV, they can articulate very well. They understand the business. And to me, I think they were just not only artists, but they were like role models.
Yes, they were.
We learned something from them.
Yes.
They dressed up. They wore suits and ties.
Yes.
You know.
On that note, without no further ado, what you have up here, brother? What do you have up here?
This is my first record I've done along with my cousin DJ Lightning Lance. This is the first live scratching record that was ever recorded. Before Grandmaster Flash and Africa Bambaataa, this was the actual record that was done. So this is going to be history. This is something I'm working on putting into the Hip Hop Museum. I'm trying to.
I want to, Alan, up at Browsnet, mentioned that to me, that you want to put a hip hop museum together. Why?
Well, I think it's so important. I think it's going to bridge the gap between the different generations. Oftentimes, when we hear hip hop music today, most people of a certain age don't want to listen to it. Now, at the time that it was first introduced to the scene in the early 70s, it was something that most people enjoyed because it uplifted our spirits. We use hip hop music as a vehicle to escape violence, such as gangs or graffiti or whatever the case may be. And I think that now that it's became in corporate America's hands, I think it just took on a whole different avenue. And I think people feel, they don't look at it from the business aspect, they look at it from the entertainment, and it's destroying us as a people and our culture, it's setting us backwards. So by having this hip hop museum, we'll be able to separate the reality from falsehood. And so this is a platform where we can have people such as your audience here come in and sit down and talk to the artists that are putting these profanities on these records and that's destroying our generation.
See, that's another thing though too, because we have Fiona, how old is Isaac?
7.
7 years old. Young lady up here is 8 years old. And how old are you, sweetheart?
15.
15 years old. These are the people they want to reach.
Yes. See, that's why it's important for us to be able to have a platform such as your show to be able to get this information out. We can't wait for other people to do what we could do for ourselves.
No, we with the Cool Clyde we can, because but God bless public access and also the God bless the internet to a certain extent too, and and you can put anything on a YouTube, but I think it's so important we have to tell the story.
Yes. And we don't have to wait for corporate America to tell our stories.
No.
Because if they didn't profit off of our ignorance, they would eliminate this altogether. Because now, I never thought in my time that I would hear white kids calling each other niggas. I never thought in this time that white people are now saying that they're being discriminated against. Reverse racism. So, with me having this platform to be able to have my own show, to be on Kiss FM, to be able to talk, I produce Reverend Al Sharpton's show on Sundays, to be able to be around so many different people.
You'll be around people.
I think it's important.
I might get in trouble with other people that who I deal on the other side of the dial too. But I listen to everybody. I listen to the show Sunday nights and in the daytime too, especially Sunday night. And they have Peter Noel. I like Peter. I'm crazy about Peter. My cut man. Oh, cut man. We gotta get cut man to do a show up here one day. He'll turn the roof off the sucker in a minute. and Bob Slade and Judge Pickett. Also too, we gonna go on the other side of the dial. LIB. Gary Bird, you know, we give credit to kudos to Gary Bird. Also, two people very active in the community, Dr. Bob Lee. We have people who are really, you know, some of these people too, right?
Oh yeah, I work with him. Actually, Dr. Bob Lee is the host of my TV show that I'll be on with him on Open and Bronson.
Open, yes. Oh, you should see that in Bronson on the Open show. Dr. Bob Lee.
And don't forget James M. Toomey.
James M. Toomey, yes, I always said Stephanie Mills got one of her biggest hits when it was with Toomey.
That's right.
She did, and she don't forget it neither.
That's right.
You know, working with them, how this is an experience in itself. You know, with the Open Line crew, with Reverend Sharpton. How you feel working with them?
I think first of all, it's a lot of rich history and information. You know, those guys are men of a certain age.
Yes, they are.
And so they are looking, in my spirit, for somebody to carry and pass that torch.
This is what we're talking about.
And I think, being that they built this,
yes, they did.
They can't afford to let this thing fall behind the waistline, because black radio is on a decline. And they are definitely trying to do away with black radio.
Oh, man.
And so we have to be able to be ahead of the game, so to speak. And I think this internet stuff that is happening right now is almost like corporate America didn't expect this.
They sure did.
To this level.
Yes.
You understand? And so while we have a chance, before they figure out a way to try to stop this, we got to keep going. We got to keep going to put this information out there, because we can't allow this to stop right now. So me being in the presence of these guys, I learned so much. I learned to humble myself. I've learned to be able to understand when to speak. I've learned when various artists that come up to the show, I mean, we had Neo come up to the show. I mean, just so many different people I've been blessed to be able to meet and to be able to talk with and get their opinion and views on things behind the scenes. There's so much to learn, and I think it's so important to be able to be that. That's a blessing from the Most High to allow me to be in the presence of that and see how things go. And our assistant station is Hot 97.
Yeah, Hot 97.
So I'm able to, you know, fight with those guys over there too, because you know, there's certain music that they put out there that is, you know, a little on the edge, but
we have people like you said, like Dr. Bob Lee, you know, from BLS, and you know, we have you know, like the Open Line crew, and there's not too many of these shows. I remember growing up, they had, well, you know, you gotta come back another day. See, I remember Bob Law, RL, Bob Law, you know, and there was a gentleman before them, Bertie McCain, Tell It Like It Is, on WWRL, that was back in New York. There's not, like you said, it's like a, I don't want to use expressions, like a dying breed now.
Yeah, well, like
but you said, you had to keep the ball rolling. Like.
Yeah, you have to, and it's important, because I mean, there's so many things that are going on. I mean, not me just being in hip-hop music as being one of the creators, because I started out with Africa Bambaataa and Grandmaster Flash and Kool Herc and all these guys. And I realized it's not just about music and partying and having a good time. I'm using this as to empower us. Many people are working at jobs, city, state jobs, where maybe their pension is being affected.
Yes.
Unions are being affected. I try to tie that in with what's going on in the music, because music is a thing to our souls, you know, and I feel that by me having this platform to be able to convey this message to people, I must use this and deliver the information to the people, because that's just another strategic way to get the information out there to the people.
I think it's important in a sense. It's like when we started as the passing of the torch.
Oh yeah.
I think it's so important. As of right now, I was telling Will, and that's Orlando. In the next couple of years, I'm gonna be passing the torch. I enjoy doing this. but I'm going to be passing the torch in the next couple of years. Hopefully, and I believe he said he would do it. My son's going to be doing it. It takes a whole lot because sometimes I say, oh, I got quality people on the phone, but we want to keep it going in the family. It's just like with this bookstore. It's like you have to support institutions. I think about the Apollo Theater. The Apollo. If Percy Sutton, the late Percy Sutton, did not put up his money, and other people put up their money, there would not been no Apollo Theater. And when James Brown had to come back to Harlem, he would come back to a parking lot.
Now that's a crying shame.
And I always give a salute to Percy Sutton for doing that. Because also too, we as people too, we forget about our pioneers, people who came before us. Who made them, made the way. We talk about Motown, and like even people like Barry Gordy, but also to people before Barry Gordy, whereas you had VJ Records. A lot of people don't realize that. Bob Slade, I always credit Bob Slade for doing this one night, and he won an award for this. But about VJ Records, whereas VJ Records was a swinging black record company, and they did something that the other record companies didn't do at that time. They brought the Beatles.
I never knew that.
And the Four Seasons. And they became very popular later on. And then other record companies saw it and said, hey, we're going to take them, One must know their history. I love radio. I love, I like new television too. But like I told Lando, when I buy the newspaper every day, I don't look at the sports page. I look what's going on in the radio page to see what's going on and keep up what's going on because that don't affect, but it affects us one way or the other.
Well, another person or people that affects us in another way is our elected officials, and some of them have to be called out, and they are selling us out. And I could imagine what they would be doing if they wasn't in the politics. Selling drugs, on welfare. I mean, so many different things. It's the new hustle. And we also even have to call on some of our leaders in these churches because some of them are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And we need to talk about that because these are real serious situations that are going on, that's occurring right now. We can't put a Band-Aid over cancer. We got to deal with the solution because we're going to constantly keep having these things in each generation unless we stomp this thing out.
It's unfortunate, and we're going to take a break in a few minutes. Answer this tape with this young lady who drowned her kids.
Oh.
Now, one wonders what went through her head. Why did she do this? But also, too, it's a lot of issues. That's just one. There's other young single mothers, out there. How they go. No one is training. It's like I was telling someone, I read this article on the train, and someone said, "You look over my shoulder." They said, "Well," I said, it's a shame." I said, "You got the young training the young," and that's the biggest. So Ms. McFarland, if she was up here, she would have mentioned that today. That's a big issue in itself. But we have to, like you said, we have to be mentors. Like my brother and Toomey mentioned many times that we had to sit back here, and the old heads had to sit back and carry the ball.
Yeah, well, I learned a lot from those guys. Like, Fatima Muhammad has helped me out a lot.
Yes.
He produces Sharpton Show and does the Open Line Show along with me. Actually, I'll be seeing him tomorrow.
Yes.
But again, we have a serious job. Now, a lot of people now say that you should get out and vote, right? Diddy had a saying called "Vote or Die." I say "God or die," and really, that's what's really happening right now. And I think that my perspective on that young lady doing that and drowning her kids. Everybody has problems. We don't know what she has been through. You figure her oldest child, I think it's 15 or 16. She might have had that child when she was 15.
15 years old.
And married with 4 kids and stuff. So she probably had a lot going on. And maybe the guy who she was with didn't want her anymore, you know.
Yeah,
and so a lot of things do happen, but I don't know if God, that's up to him, whether or not he's going to forgive you for committing suicide.
Right, right.
Because you can't walk. That's like saying you don't have faith.
Right.
No matter what you're going through, you still got to stick it out. Because you might die in the flesh, but your spirit is going to have to be dealt with. And I always tell people, once you understand what can happen. Now this is a hard thing. This is my personal opinion.
Yes, I want to.
If I do something wrong and I'm conscious of it and I deliberately keep doing it wrong, when it's my time, my greatest fear that I have on earth right now, I'm going to be introduced to that. So going over a bridge, White Stone Bridge, and it just collapses and you in the car and you just drown. You know that fear? But I'm talking about happening over and over and over again. And there's nothing you can do. You can call your mother, you can call your best friend. Guess what? You go out and have a drink. Some people smoke and think that's going to alleviate that. It's going to even increase it even more. So if people took out the time and think, and shout out to all you atheists that don't believe in God, you're going to deal with that as well. But I'm just telling you, I feel this in my spirit. I don't sugarcoat what I feel, because I know God is going to remember. The same day this interview that we having, He's going to bring us back and face us. We can't say we forgot the time of day, I was sleeping, I was tired, I didn't remember. Those are excuses. How many times must you beat a dead horse dead? Excuses is done away with. Now that you got the information right now, you have to stand up and be accountable for it and stop blaming other people. You're going to be dealt with, whatever it is. So these are the things, this is how I think, and this is what keeps me in check when I'm dealing with people. Because people are not stupid. Their spirit is 10 times greater than the sun. You know how far the sun is away.
Yes.
We know when a person is lying. We may not say nothing, but our spirits talk to us and go, yeah, that's that old. We know. When are we going to come to a point when we're going to deal with what we know and let that person know we know? Don't sugarcoat it. Sit down and talk to that person, because that could save that person's life.
Yes.
What's up?
Yeah.
I'm glad you up here, brother. We go over to the you still play vinyls, right?
Oh yes, man. Vinyls is, again, I mean, learning from people like Art Blakely, Thelonious Monk, and my cousin Lance. I mean, coming from a family that's listened to jazz.
Okay.
And I've learned so much in so many different genres of music, whether it's European music, you know, Carole King. I mean, so many different music that I was exposed to, Tito Puente, so many different genres of music that I've been exposed to. And I think the way that I'm able to adapt this and put this into what I do is because I like to open up my eyes and listen, because God gave me 2 ears and 2 eyes to listen twice as much as I speak. And so when I'm in a situation to be able to learn something, I like to learn other people's cultures, other people's background.
That's so important.
It doesn't limit you. You learn so much. It's not about just you and your culture. It's about being able to take something that they might be ignorant about or they don't know. And you now, because you have an open mind, you're able to open them up and able to say, whether I may not always agree with you, but you got them thinking. You got them saying, wow, I never thought about it from that perspective. As opposed to fighting fire with fire, you never win. Somebody got to be the bigger person and diffuse it with water or a fire extinguisher or whatever. You know. So again, you know, when I speak, I always pray before I leave the house. I always ask the Creator to tell me, what is it that you want me to convey to people? I can't pick and choose who's watching this interview. Oftentimes when I walk down the street, you know, somebody say, hey, I like that show. You know, I enjoy it, I listen. And I'm like surprised, oh, you listen to the show? I don't know. So I have to be very careful
Yes.
how I speak. I want to be a warrior for the Most High. I want to be able to do His works, because I could talk a certain way in front of the cameras, but then when the cameras are off, get out in the world and act a fool. People are watching.
Oh yeah, because I remember a friend of mine. I remember when I first started in public access. He mentioned, he said, you know, I can't sit back here and do the, and like I tell people this, I cannot walk up to a bank and rob a bank. Because they take a picture, they go on TV, and they'll sit back here and say, well, here's a picture of this guy. And somebody will sit back and just take one person. Hey, that's the guy that does the cable show.
I mean,
and then there's another instance where and they're going to say, well, I can't run over nobody's wife. I can't run over nobody's girlfriend. Because they, well, hey, that's the guy that sits back here and have the cable show. You know that guy.
That's true.
So I can't, I have to live, well, I don't want to sound like a monk, but but people are like you said, people are watching me, because I remember I was in Brooklyn, at one of the stores in Brooklyn, and somebody said, hey, I see your show all the time, and that's out of the clear blue. They were in Brooklyn, and the shows, seen other places, the Bronx and then, in Manhattan. Like you say, you don't know.
Well, that's the beauty of this.
Yes.
And so when you got people that are watching your show and they are interested, especially when you have something that is so informative and it's not being shown on major networks.
That's the whole thing.
But see, the thing is this. BET, VH1, Viacom, all of these major stations get their ideas from grassroots stations like us. They got the money to take your idea and put a different spin on it, and you're going, wait a minute, that's my show. And other people's going, nah, that's not your show. But that is your show.
Wow.
They got the money to fund it to silence you.
Yep.
So that's why I'm telling you, this is why how important and informative your shows are in public access is. And so wherever you get a chance to be on public access, the internet, get your information out there, you must use it, because this will keep us from going into captivity.
Remember black radio back then, when Dr. King wanted a message out, he used to go to black radio and tell the people, tell the truth. Well, look, we're going to have a meeting tonight, and the word was out.
That's right. And so even reflecting back to hip-hop, this is one of the things that I want to talk about. A lot of the young generation today, I'm not, coming down on them, but let's just talk about the pants sagging.
Oh, okay.
Because, I did a show with two young ladies. They was 10 years old at the time, and they talked about, the word sagging is niggas backwards, spelled backwards, right? But I always say, as long as there's a plan for business, for corporate America, we may say, if you wear your pants down, you're not going to get a job. Who's going to hire you with your hat to the back and your pants sagging? Nobody's going to want to hire you. But then I gave it another analogy, and I said, and I'm not in any way promoting this. Let's just say a company like Verizon has a major company on Fifth Avenue, a store, but the sales are not doing too well. But they open up.
We'll just give this an example. Okay, go ahead.
Right. So exactly.
Okay.
But they open up a store in the urban community.
Okay.
And they allow their employees to wear their pants sagging because they can adapt and relate to the young kids that are buying this stuff, and they sales shoot off the roof. It's about business now, right?
Yes.
As long as we're making business and they're generating money for me, they can dress however they want to dress. This store might be making more money than the store on Fifth Avenue. What do you think they're going to do? You think they're going to tell you, no, pull your pants up? Because money is being taken from your pockets. So these are the things that I sit back and I think about. Again, I'm not promoting the sagging in the pants. To me, I think it's the respectful thing is to have your pants up.
I don't like to show my drawers.
And I mean, it's coming to a point where it's really, people can't even walk across the street.
I saw a guy. I was in front of the building with I saw a guy walking across the street, and he was and I said, and I sat back. I had to take a double take. I said, I'm not believing this.
we're gonna have a generation of people with back problems in the near future. We're gonna need a lot of, you know.
So that health plan gonna come into effect.
Oh
really?
yeah, because
so they better join.
Do you see how their movement of their bodies?
Yeah.
I mean,
bow-legged too.
I mean, it's. That's another story.
Right.
But I appreciate it. You know.
Yeah. And so that's why, I mean, my passion and my desire is to be able to give back to people, because coming up, people
giving back. And I went to one of your fairs. You had one time a block party type of situation. You had everybody from kids and Dr. Bob Lee and everybody was up there, and you gave back to the community. And I always, and behind your back and before your face, I always admire you for doing that. It's like when the lights go on and say, well, you know, that's it.
Right.
I always admire you for doing that. I really
thank you. Well, it was an event that I do. I've been doing it for almost 9, going on 10 years, called Raising Kings and Queens in the Bronx. And the reason why I thought about that is because, you know, I started a nonprofit organization, United We Stand Entertainment, and I came from a family that were very close. And in many cases, it was rare to so many people, because they would say, you're very close with your brothers, your sisters, your aunts, and your uncles. A lot of families weren't very close.
Yes.
They arguing, they fighting, they cursing each other out. And, you know, and they would talk to their best friend about their family member like a dog. I could never understand that, but these things happen. But me, coming from a family that we were so close, I'm saying that we didn't have our problems.
Yeah.
But it was like almost unheard of. So when I give back doing these events, I always think of how and the type of vibration that I was brought up under. I always think in terms of, you know, bringing food out, bringing artists out, and giving back to all various ages. You don't want to have teenagers or kids that are 7 years old, you know, bored. So I try to find something that's going to entertain them. The seniors, I have something that's going to entertain them. You know, different coaches, I have something that's going to entertain them. You know, I brought Wendy Williams out there several times. She has supported me on different events. Curtis Blow, on BT Express, The Persuaders, Dave Valentine, like India. That's just to name a few, Kiss FM. And so many different people that has came out. I've done stuff with Neo and Remy Martin and Fabulous and all of these different guys. And so to be able to bring that back in the Bronx where hip-hop has started, that was my way of letting people know. And a lot of elected officials today became in higher positions because of me helping them out and giving them that spotlight.
We're going to talk about that, because we want you to come back another day.
Yes.
I'll
be glad to be back here.
Thank you, and we're going to remember this.
Oh, you want to see the back of this?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, 1980-81. Do you remember the T-Connection and Celebrity Club? You probably too young to remember that.
Oh, yeah. You know, there was a gentleman who was a DJ, DJ.
That's my man. Yeah, he was out there with us. He's still around.
Yeah. He's still around. God bless him.
Mm-hmm.
On that note, I would like to thank you so much for joining us today on the LMS show. And we're going to end off with another Smokey Robinson hit by himself. All Day the Sisters, being with you. Cool Clyde, being with you. It was a pleasure being with you.
Thank you.
And we'll see you soon with more LMS.